This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, I would like to call the Community Development Authority to order for Tuesday, November 1, 2022. Roll call, please.
Mayor Podolsky. Here. Keith Lucius.
Here.
Gary Paul.
Here.
Bruce Enke.
Here.
Jim Christensen.
Here.
Brian Vandekreek.
Here.
The back is excused.
Please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And please remember all our men and women throughout the world in uniform. I have no changes to the agenda. I need a motion to approve, please.
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second to approve the agenda as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Number 5, action on the minutes from the regular meeting of October 4th, 2022.
Move to approve. Second.
Motion and a second to approve those minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Thank you. 6A, action items. Action regarding blight designation resolution for Waube Lane, Allied Street, and Parkview Road parcels. VA-228-14-K-58, VA-228-14-K-58-1, VA-228-14-K-59, VA-228-14-K-57, and VA-228-14-K-57-1.
You sure you got that right?
Could you repeat that, please? Okay, you're right.
Yeah, I'll kind of take team with Aaron a little bit here. So this particular agenda item came up relatively in short order, mid to last week. Unfortunately, it was right after we had canceled the CDA meeting that we were notified that this was being requested of the CDA. But we appreciate everybody's patience, as I'm sure Jim will state as well from Bell Health. If you're not familiar with, Bell Health is constructing a relatively large ambulatory surgery center at the former Menard site on Allied and Waube Lane, at the parcels that are indicated in the agenda, as well as the proposed resolution that you have at your desktop here. This call came before us because Bell is looking to finance the project through bonds through an organization at the state level called WEFA. In order for those bonds to be issued, in my understanding, and Jim will correct me if I'm wrong, as double tax exempt bonds, the property itself in which the site is being constructed needs to be identified as blighted property. And effectively, that's what this resolution is doing. Furthermore, in order for WEFA to issue the bonds, they're tying their bond issuance authority to our village's community development authority, our CDA. Hence the reason why you are being requested here this afternoon. So the proposed resolution in front of you is basically identifying the authorities vested in the CDA for the village of Ashwaubenon under state statutes, which essentially gives us the power to eliminate and remove blight, as well as have the authority to borrow and issue bonds or other indebtedness for the projects. So the resolution identifies the CDA's authority. Furthermore, it resolves to work with Bell Health in issuing and identifying the parcels that are identified in the resolution as blighted properties, so as to qualify for the financing through WEFA. In addition to that, and this is where the changes come into play, as identified in the handout that you received, which is the red line version of it, it identifies that the CDA has authority to issue revenue bonds for this project. I want to be clear that the CDA is not issuing revenue bonds for this project, that WEFA will be issuing the bonds. However, under our authority, we do have the ability to. And so and Jim will describe this a little bit more in detail, that we need to identify that we have the authority to issue the revenue bonds within the resolution, because WEFA will utilize that authority in issuing the tax exempt bonds through the state. So you'll see some of the change in wording. This is from their bond counsel, indicating that the bonds could be issued by our authority, given the authority that's vested in the CDA, but they are not. They are going to be issued through that separate organization, to which point they would have their own loan agreement, so on and so forth. So the red line version is different than the copy that was in your board packet. If it's ultimately agreeable and the CDA is resolved to approve the proposed resolution, then you would approve the resolution as amended, shown today on this hard line or red line copy for you. So with that, I'm going to pass it on to Jim, and you'll probably provide a much better explanation than I just said.
Yeah, so thank you. My name is Jim Dietschy. I'm the Executive Vice President, Chief Financial Officer of Bellin Health. I've been in that role for 18 years. So a couple of things. One is I've been working on this project for probably 3 years or so, and we are just thrilled to have such a significant presence in the village of Ashwaubenon at that location, and we believe it will obviously develop into that whole area will develop into a much larger area, not only for healthcare, but obviously have lots of other benefit for the community. So let me start there. So as Aaron mentioned, yes, this came up very late. So what I want to clarify, so he got basically everything right. For the most part, most large healthcare financing transactions occur through the Wisconsin Health and Educational Facilities Authority, which is a state-based organization. Those, so they are the conduit issuer, just like you are a conduit issuer. Those issuances can be federally tax exempt. Okay, so we could be issuing, and we wouldn't even be having this meeting, we could be just issuing with that. However, when there is a local development authority that is present, which that is what this is, and you have an area that is blighted, you can still use the same authority to allow there to be not only a federal tax exemption, but also to have the bonds state tax exempt. So the reason for the resolution that is in front of you is to allow the debt issuance that Bellin is doing, for that debt issuance to be not only federally tax exempt, to be also state tax exempt. And when there is a local authority, the state statutes allow for the state authority, which is WEFA, just like Aaron mentioned, to be able to issue the bonds tax exempt. So the resolution basically says we could have approached you to consider this, but the reality is we are issuing the debt through WEFA, and there will be nothing after this with this local authority involved. So hopefully that's plain and clear as mud, and happy to answer any questions.
So Joel, this is a comfort resolution for all practical purposes.
Exactly. Yep.
And I'm sorry, I don't know if that was Joel or Aaron talking before, so I apologize if I got the name mixed up.
We work well together.
Yep.
We have double tax exempt bonds for the Expo, the Rush Expo also. That went through our CDA.
So the financing will be all done by them. Nothing will come through the village like we've done things in the past.
Correct.
So we're just signing a resolution, so let them go ahead. What I have a problem with is the word blighted. Was that blighted property prior to them taking ownership?
I can answer that. It was. It actually,
Because of
in our TID number 5 amendment, we actually identified that property as blighted at that time.
Okay, all right. Okay, that answered those two questions I had. Okay.
I think you just answered my question. This is in the TID, right?
Correct. It is. Yep. And the TID does identify this property as blighted.
Anybody drove down Waube prior to all of the buildings coming down, they would probably agree that it was very blighted.
Well, the Menards property, I think, was the issue. The other ones were still in full use. But regardless, it was blighted. We'll just leave that alone.
The definition of blight in state statutes is relatively broad in nature. And that's why you can pretty much address a lot of properties that you might want to. Oh, well.
Okay, so all the responsibilities on Bill and Health. All right. All right, if there's no other questions, I'll move to approve as presented with the parcels that Mary read out, and I'm not going to repeat them. She can do that.
I'll second.
And just to clarify that the motion is to approve the resolution. as
Approve the
amended.
resolution. Right.
We have a motion and a second to approve the red line resolution for the blight designation for Waube Lane as identified in 6A action item.
Very good, Mary.
I said them once so that we have them identified. Any other questions, concerns, comments? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very much. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Jim.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you for the time, and I just want to express my sincere appreciation to Aaron and Joel, who literally gave me their cell phones and said, hey, call me. They just made themselves very available to address this issue. It's very much appreciated.
Very much. Thanks, Jim.
Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, number 7, items for next agenda. We don't
We'll see.
know. We'll see. We may have one and cancel it and call you all in again.
Apologize for that. It was just,
Yeah.
the notice went out and then Aaron called like 2 hours later and
Yeah.
said, do you think we can have a CBA meeting?
I checked my tablet at 11:52 and it said CDA meetings.
You made it in time for what the important part.
Apparently there are no law enforcement officers on our night.
Okay, I need a motion to adjourn, please.
Second.
Motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, everybody, for coming in.